Before the success stories, the progress, there was you. You who made a choice to grow, to inspire, to overcome your own challenges. At NASM, we're in service of your limitless potential, because when you keep growing, we all get stronger, and we'll never stop making your journey our mission. Join the fitness leader. Become a fitness leader. Become a certified personal trainer.
You're listening to Random Fit with hosts Wendy Batts and Ken Miller, winner of a Gold Markham Award for Digital Media.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Random Fit. I am Wendy Batts here with friend and co-host Kenneth Miller. Ken, how are you today?
I got my full name today, huh?
Kenneth. Yes, you're in trouble. Kenneth Miller.
I know. That's what I do.
No, today we're talking about arthritis and exercise, or exercise and arthritis, whichever way you want to say it. I have a client who actually has rheumatoid arthritis who came to me almost a year and a half ago, completely freaked out. She had just recently been diagnosed with this, and her doctor said that she needed to get moving more. She looked like she was in incredible shape, but it just depended on the day of how she woke up and how she felt. Some days she could easily get out of bed, and other days she said that she would basically have to like roll herself almost onto the floor to try to get her joints moving based on inflammation and just what was going on with her body. And so we started a workout regimen. She went back, and Ken, I can happily say that in less than a year, she is no longer on some of the medications they put her on, because she's built a stronger foundation, better range of motion, and she's doing phenomenal.
That is awesome, because I see the same thing with my active aging population. And unfortunately, Wendy, as far as arthritis goes, I've got a kid who's he's still in college, and not my kid, but a client who I call him a kid. But he's still in college, but he's already had two knee surgeries, because of playing soccer, a ski accident. And unfortunately, as a 20-year-old, he's already experiencing arthritis in his knee, in his surgical knee. So arthritis knows no age, depending on what your body's been through and what your genetics, the genetic cards are dealt to you. So I think this is a topic that we do need to discuss, because I have these conversations, and I oftentimes bring up my group of my Rise and Shine Zoom guys that I see, and they all three have arthritis, but in different areas in it, and they feel differently. Just like you said, there's those days where you can just get up and feel like you can take on the world, and other days where you need a little bit of help there. You're a little bit slower getting out of bed. And those are the things that I have to take inventory on before we actually start our workout session, because one, they're a group. I want to know who I'm working with that day, but I want to know how they're feeling during that particular session, because some days they feel great, some days they don't. And me, as their personal trainer, I have to figure out, okay, what is the best person for this? What is the best thing for this person at this? Who's the best person for this? What's the best course of action for this person at this time on this day during this session? So arthritis, big consideration, especially if you are working with the active aging.
Yeah. And I think if we need to take a step back, let's talk about what arthritis is. Unfortunately, it's a condition that causes stiffness in joints. It can cause inflammation in the tissues surrounding the joints, which is then going to lead to range of motion issues. Oftentimes, if you're not moving, can be some bone deformities that unfortunately you'll have to go in sometimes and get surgically fixed or shaved down. It just happens over time, especially if there's reoccurring injuries. That's often common, but the most common one that you're going to hear about are people that are aging. They end up having osteoarthritis, which, if you know what that is, it's going to eventually lead to osteoporosis if you're not careful. Also, rheumatoid arthritis, that's one that I was telling you about with my client. Unfortunately, that can happen at any age, and oftentimes it can be genetic if you're not if you didn't get dealt the right hand of, the right cards, that can happen. That's what happened, unfortunately, with my client specifically. And then you're going to see people get psoriatic arthritis. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Psoriatic arthritis. But you also, who is one of the biggest people that you see that openly talks about it? He's a professional golfer, Phil Mickelson. I know a lot about him because he's ASU grad. He's left-handed and he plays golf. So check. A lot of people love him, but a lot of people don't, but all to their own. But he openly talks about it and his struggles of what he had to do in order to be able to play that repetitive motion and walk the course and be able to be at his height, when it's time for him to play a major championship or whatever it is that he's doing. So it happens to, unfortunately, everyone if you're not careful, but there are some benefits that you can do with exercise to either alleviate it if you have it or to help prevent it if you don't.
Well, I think the big point here, Wendy, is the fact that I've had clients that said, my wrist is not feeling the best. My knee is not feeling the best. Maybe I should cancel my session with you today. Or when I am training them, I'll say, hey, how was your week? How have you been since I last saw you? And they say, well, my elbow or whatever, wherever their arthritis may be showing their flare-ups, they'll say, fill in the blank, hasn't been feeling well, or my elbow hasn't been feeling that good this last week, so I didn't exercise. And then I have to remind them and reframe the fact that movement and exercise, whatever format that you're participating in, will only help it get better. So when you move, when you elect to move, especially if you find a way to resolve your tensions and increase blood flow, that will only help the symptoms get better with most people. Again, everybody's different, but if you have found a way to make yourself feel better through activity and movement, by all means, look for it if you haven't found it. But if you know what it is, get off the couch and do that thing, because you're only going to feel better from it.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a bunch of research that shows that the exercise itself can alleviate pain. And how does that happen? Well, you're strengthening the muscles that may be causing, that are weak and allowing different muscles to cause compression. It may be restricting a joint, but when you start to get better mobility through a joint, you're working on proper range of motion through a joint, whatever that may be. I mean, that's basically, Ken, what you and I, how we make our living. We find areas that aren't functioning properly through assessments. And if you don't have correct range of motion, there's usually one side of the joint that's super overactive or tight. The other side is weak and allowing that compensation to happen. So therefore, we know exactly what to stretch, and we can help strengthen those weaker muscles to get better alignment. So think about if you're moving more optimally, the amount of pressure that's taken off of those particular joints, you are going to feel better. And then what do we know about exercise? The production of endorphins. We feel better. It clears our head, and it's how to start the day. So it's more of, if you can get out of bed that morning and you can make it to the gym or make it to your workout on your phone or whatever it is that you're doing, a little bit of something's better than a whole lot of nothing. We've heard that a bunch of time, or exercise is medicine. There's a lot of truth behind those comments, both of them.
And I think one aspect of being stronger when it comes to having arthritis is the fact that even if you don't feel better, or if you feel better just by a little bit, then if you're stronger, whatever tasks that have to be done can still be done. You may not feel the best doing it, but you can do it with more ease when you're stronger than if you haven't been exercising, you haven't been developing your strength, and something needs to be done. Like if my wrist or my elbow, wherever I have arthritis, isn't feeling the best, if I have to carry groceries up the stairs, which means I have to use my hands, I have to use my legs to go up and down stairs. If that has to be done and you don't feel the best, at least you are not laboring while doing it. Your tasks will be easier. So when you have arthritis and you have a flare up, and no matter what your day has to throw, you still have to do this thing. At least you're stronger, which means less. And to your point, Wendy, if you can move more efficiently because you have stronger muscles, good range of motion, the right muscles are firing at the right time, then, and you have good coordination in doing it, then your tasks will be better. Your tasks will be easier. You're not going to be waiting and procrastinating because you're trying to put it off because you're not looking forward to how you're going to feel. Well, at least you're strong enough to do it. And with training, you're going to be stronger in having to do that. So
and
overall,
I've had a client too that has come in with osteoarthritis. She was wigging out. She did her bone density test. She was on the spectrum of being at a high risk for osteoporosis, which unfortunately usually go hand in hand. So exercise is also going to help your bone density, and that's super important. The stronger you get, the stronger your bones are, the less brittle you're going to be as you age. Your posture is going to feel better. Like you said, you're going to move better. So there's so many different positive things, and it's actually okay to lift heavy. I mean, you want to work your way up to that. You want to earn the right, as Marty Miller always says, to lift heavy. But I think it's really important too, because as you guys start to lift and move more, your joints are going to feel better. You're going to feel better. I'm a huge advocate. And again, it's a huge contraindication. But if you can, and you get permission based on your bone density and you've done the tests, to start to foam roll and start to find ways to alleviate some of those muscles that become overactive, super hyperactive, like active in certain areas. If you can get that to down regulate and get those areas to relax, and then you go for longer walks, and then you start to go into the gym and lift things. And it doesn't have to be heavy. It's just start somewhere and then do a little bit of the continuous walking. That movement is going to kind of reorganize and revamp your whole like mental state too. So when you wake up in the morning, you may be sore, but you're sore for a good reason versus you're sore because you can't move your wrist, So it's hard because I'm not on that side, but I understand because I just have that empathy for people that have it. But I've also seen the change, and I'm telling you, if you work at it, you can reverse those numbers.
Right. You can make changes. So on this episode of Random Fit with both Wendy Batts and Kenneth Miller, we're talking about exercise and arthritis. So the one thing that I want to add to that conversation, Wendy, is that we want the impact. We want the stress on the bone. So impact being, or stress, heavier loads through strength training that will help with bone density. Again, we may not be able to turn back the clock when it comes to increasing bone density, but at least we can stave off the decline in bone density. And as much as we're talking about the importance of having impact, like running and jogging, if you can still do it, but if you're having a harder time that day when it comes to how your joints feel, scale it back. Go for a walk, go for a jog, go find a steep hill that you can walk up. You'll still get that impact of walking, and you'll still get that cardiorespiratory benefit of challenging yourself by adding an incline. But maybe that's not the day. Don't dismiss a workout, or don't dismiss activity because you're having a bad. Find a level that's appropriate for you for that day. And that's one of the things that I find myself consulting with my clients, is the fact that just because you don't feel like it doesn't mean you don't do it. And that's basically what I tell them. That's what discipline is, right? Keeping that consistency, doing something, a little bit of something every day. I know that I run short on the clock all the time, just because once it's time to be with my kids, I put everything else away, which means sometimes I'm done at 10:30, but that's not the time. But if I can steal away 10 minutes of doing something physical, then do it. And that's what I encourage all my clients to do. Just because you don't feel like it doesn't mean you can't find a way, or find a 10-15 minute strategy to put stress in, controlled, managed stress into your body, to give your body something to adapt to, which is strength, bone density, all of those things.
Well, and I think you make a really good point too. If you're not feeling it and you have access to a pool, you have access to even an elliptical, anything like that to kind of get your body moving where there's not a lot of impact to the ground. That's going to take some of the stress off of your spine and a lot of your joints, depending on what particular joint may be inflamed or where you may be having the issues. But just keep in mind too, if you do nothing, that's not going to help heart health. That's not going to help bone density, but it's also going to probably cause weight management issues long term, which then means the heavier you get, it's more for your body to support, which means more pressure onto your joints. And so it really all does go hand in hand when we talk about it. So when we're looking at, obviously there's different types of arthritis. We discussed that, but let's look at some preventatives. Most importantly, just if you're having that day, make that your flexibility day. Make that the day where you do a yoga video or go to a yoga class or try to find something that tries to help kind of decrease your stress level, also open up your areas that are super tight. I know that there's, what were some of the examples? They said Tai Chi, different exercises. If you can, and it's not contraindicated, foam rolling or using the percussion devices, getting a massage, anything that you can do to kind of de-stress. But flexibility is super important for the mobility of the joints. That will be the first place I would tell everyone to start.
Yep. Like range of motion is important, because when we talk about another thing that we need is, and we talked about this already, strength training, and this helps improve muscle density. And again, as we get older, unless you train, you're going to lose muscle density. Muscle is what helps us stay strong, obviously, but it's also what helps us stay powerful. So if you are an active aging adult and you like to still participate in sports like golf, like tennis, like running, jogging, you need strength to maintain power, because power is not just relative to how strong you are, how much you can lift, but it's also about how fast you can move those muscles. So that's what we're talking about. It's just force production over time. The faster you can move, the less time things will take. But the more powerful you are, the more you can keep, the better, especially as we get older. But unfortunately, as we do age, we don't train for power. We'll lose that power, but we also will decline in strength. So power is just one way of accessing strength. So when it comes to strength training, we just say, be diverse in the directions that you move, be diverse in the speeds that you move. And that's what's going to help you maintain strength for the long term. And overall, if we can maintain healthy joints through better muscle balance, strength is going to be a big part of that.
Absolutely. And on Random Fit, myself, Wendy Batts, and Ken Miller are talking about exercise and arthritis. We talked about some of the common types of arthritis and ways that you can help trying to get yourself motivated, especially on those days when you just don't want to do it. We talked about the importance of obviously stretching. We're talking about the importance of strength. I think it's also important to throw in, when we're talking about strength, to really incorporate the single leg type balance exercises, especially with your aging clients, or if you're doing this on your own and you're a fitness enthusiast. Balance now is the time to start it. Doesn't matter if you're 10, doesn't matter if you're 15 or if you're 85. You need balance in all of your workouts, because it's going to help with the foot planting on the ground, strengthen the muscles that make contact and that work all the way up your kinetic chain, which is all the way up your body. So the more that you can get that foot strong, get good stability throughout the foot and ankle complex, work on the outer hip and those muscles on one leg, that's only going to help you prevent falls as you get older. And you're also going to see you quickly lose it if you don't train it. So that's throughout the entire body, but it's super, super important, because you've seen the statistics. As you age, if you end up breaking a hip or have some hip fracture 65 years or older, your mortality rate can be obviously on the decline. I mean, you can die quicker, and we don't want that to happen. So just, nobody likes to do balance, but it's so important.
Yeah, it's just got to be a part of it. When I say a part of it, what I'm talking about is your workout program. So when we talk about the workout program, we've been talking more in the context of clients that we've worked out with, or if you're already an exerciser, then keep exercising. Just find a way to keep doing it when you're not feeling your best, because you will feel better at the end. So if you haven't been exercising, or it just hasn't been a part of your life, one of the things that I'll say is start slow. We talk about running, jogging, but before you can run, you got to walk. So start off with a walk when it comes to improving your aerobic capacity, improving blood flow. But the other thing that we will say is you don't need a full gym setup. You don't need kettlebells and dumbbells. It's nice if you have it, if you have access to it. If you can't afford the membership rate, or it's just not in your budget, then finding smaller implements that you can lift around the house. One go-to, Wendy, that I've always talked about is can of tomatoes, preferably something that's in a can, not a jar, in case you lose your grip, but a gallon of milk, right? Something that's got some weight onto it, something that you can lift and challenge yourself with that. And it could be something as simple as doing a curl, having your arms hang at your side, bringing it up to your shoulders. That's resistance training. It doesn't have to be complicated. Find simple, easy, accessible ways to move yourself into resistance training. And when we say get started, it's just simple as getting up, go around the block. That's a start. Pat yourself on the back if that's what you did to get started, but start slow, start easy. Find the small reasons to reward yourself because you did something more than you did yesterday.
100%. And I think another, we're thinking about tips. You just said start slowly. I think another one that I want to add in there is just make sure that you do a warm up and cool down, especially with arthritis. We just talked about stiffness in the joints that can reduce mobility. So we want to make sure that before we even do something, we're setting ourselves up for success by trying to get a little better range of motion. It may not be perfect, but it's better than not stretching at all. So find the areas that are overactive and tight, that's limiting that mobility in whatever joints they are. Spend some time, 20 to 30 seconds, statically stretching them. Try to get better mobility. Go do your workout, whatever that might be. Like you said, even if it's just a walk. And then when you're done, do a cool down, because as you start to cool down from whatever it is that you did, your body starts to become more and more stiff. So if you go back into some of those lighter stretches, that's going to reduce the chances of those joints kind of locking back up. And it's going to help you the next day before you get out of bed, have a little better range of motion than just working out and calling it a day. I think some of us are good at warming up and then we don't do the cool down. And they both are extremely important.
Yeah. If you're like me, sometimes I'll just finish the set. I'll say my goodbyes on the way out, and then I'm in the car. But it's something that I will just to complete that thought. When I get home, that's when I'll take out my roller, my hypervolt, whatever it is that it's going to help take off tension. So if it was a push day or press day, I'm taking that implement and I'm relieving tension in that area. So cool down. Perfect if you can do it immediately after, but at some point in time, addressing flexibility, range of motion that can be just inhibited because you just put so much stress in that part of the body. And I think, one part of that too, that part of the conversation when we're talking about exercise, if you look at the meat and potatoes of your workout routine, sometimes you just have to change things up. Kind of already talked about this already when I have my Zoom session with my clients. I've got 3 of them. All 3 have different forms of arthritis in different areas. And if that happens to be a day when Cam says my shoulder's not feeling the best, so if I can take it easy on there, even if I had some kind of pressing, pushing motion on my daily workout for them, I'll have to change it up for him. So it might not be an overhead press. It might be something like a lateral raise or a scaption or a cobra, because certain positions are it's just a no-go for him. But if I know my client, I know who he is, I know what he's successful at, I know what's not aggravating, I can make a recommendation for a different shoulder position in a different motion or a different level of resistance. And that's how exercises can be modified. You can just change it to a way that they can still move without increasing the aggravation. There, you may have a client that has a pretty good pain tolerance, and I don't know about you, Wendy, if you have these guys that's like, yeah, whatever, I'll just go ahead and do it. As long as it doesn't make it worse, I'm okay with that if you are. But if we can find a way to make it less irritating, why not? Let's go for it. But if it's a pain tolerance that you're okay with, that you're just living with, some people are just like that, and they feel better because they feel accomplished, then that's the modification.
100%. And I think that's kind of blends into my next one. You got to listen to your body. And I think when people have arthritis, and no matter what age you are, you're going to have to live with it, and you're going to have to understand your body and how your body responds to different things. So if you're not listening to your body and really thinking about what you're doing and what might have irritated it, then you're not helping yourself. So just kind of being aware. And I'll say to my clients that have this, hey, listen, let me know if you feel it in the joint or if you feel it in the muscle. And if they're like, oh my goodness, this hurts so much, I'm like, where? And they point to the muscle. I'm happy with that because we're stressing the muscle. But if they point somewhere in the joint, that's not okay. So there's a big difference. Or I'll say, hey, do me a favor, send me a text tomorrow. Let me know how you felt. And they may say, my glutes were sore, or my shoulder really hurts today, and I feel like I'm not moving it very well. Those are two different things. One, I'm like, great, we targeted the muscle, and that's what I wanted. And another thing is listen, we don't want to lock that shoulder down. We might have done too much too fast, or the weight was too heavy. So really just kind of being aware of how your body feels, kind of making yourself more aware of different things that bother it and not, and then staying consistent with your workouts. I think all of that kind of goes hand in hand. Don't give up, start slow, as you mentioned, and be consistent. But most of all, and most importantly, before you begin doing something that you may have not been doing, always check with your physician, always see what they suggest. If you're going to work with a trainer, let that trainer know, hey, listen, this is what my doctor recommends. And then maybe you as a trainer can speak to that physician if it's some conflicting things that you're not sure about, but then also play around with it. Because again, rheumatoid arthritis, huge contraindication for foam rolling. My client got permission, foam rolls every day, and feels amazing afterwards. So just because it's contraindicated doesn't mean that everyone shouldn't do it. It just means you need to get permission, because everyone's going to be different. Hence the word everybody, and why we individually train people. And it's not just all for one, because some things can be more beneficial than others. But the ultimate goal is to move better, feel better, and hopefully reduce the chances of something bad happening by strengthening your bones, your muscles, and all the things, Ken.
I think we just need to remind our listeners and viewers the fact that when we're talking about arthritis, these are people that have been diagnosed with arthritis. It's not just a matter of, yeah, my joints feel achy, so I think I've got arthritis. I've had somebody tell me that I think I've got arthritis. I don't know. I got to get this checked out. Well, get it checked out. Let's find out what your options are as far as feeling better. Because like you said, Wendy, there are medications that can alleviate some of the discomforts when it comes to having whatever form of arthritis you may have. But just for the point of knowing what to and what not to do, that's vital information for you as the person with arthritis, or for your personal trainer or strength coach who's guiding you to better health and wellness. But if they don't understand this piece about you and your body and how it works, then there are certain things that they're not going to be able to take care of or give you proper advice on, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So consult your healthcare professional if there's any doubt or questions on what you have or what you should do with it when it comes to arthritis. So Wendy, thanks for your time and sharing your insights when it comes to exercise and arthritis on this episode of Random Fit. So for those of you that are listening to us, both Wendy Batts and I, Kenneth Miller, on Random Fit, thank you for choosing us over something else, because I hope that we're delivering information that's going to help you make better decisions for you and your health when it comes to exercise. So if you don't mind, please like, follow, subscribe, download, share, and comment. Let us know what you want us to talk about, and we will do the best we can to get that on a future episode. So until next time, everybody, take care and be well.